when I got my first apartment, it was 33.3 Bitcoin. And that's 2019.
You've invested in real estate too, right? You own properties in Rockwell and things like that.
Yeah, and BGC here as well.
Right. Have you shifted your mindset on how you invest in real estate because of these problems?
Oh, yeah.
This is considered one of the most dense populations in the world.
It is.
Right? Commuters average about 1.5 to 2 hours per trip.
That's very conservative. That's not a life. That's not a life for anybody, because it was just inhumane. We actually had very good planning, like in the early 50s, 60s, 70s, I think, were our heydays for that. And then it kind of just dropped off completely.
After World War II.
Not even after World War II, because World War II, we started planning, right? We had to rebuild the city, and then Makati was built, I think, somewhere around the 50s, if I'm not mistaken. And then it started. So there was a plan, but then what happens here in the Philippines is, one, our population growth is pretty fast.
Right.
And then it just becomes reactionary. Everyone just reacts to the problem. They don't foresee it anymore. So it was designed, I can't tell you the figure, but it wasn't designed for as many people as it has now. So we're just winging it every time. Mm-hmm. We're making little solutions, reacting to different things, and that's why it looks the way you described, because there's no urban planning, there's no long-term thought and design in the city. We're just trying to all fit in, and that's why wherever you fit na lang, no?
Yeah.
And that makes it so unusable in many ways.
Right.
You know, I mean, have you seen our bike lanes? We finally got bike lanes, but exactly. And I get a lot of grief for this. I get so much grief from the cyclists every time I bring this up, and I'm like, I am a cyclist. I ride. I'm not going to ride there. That's not a proper cycle lane. And they're saying, well, it's better than nothing. Actually, I disagree there. I disagree. You pay taxes. You deserve better than that. Do not share a lane with a moving bus and car, and no, it doesn't. That's not a proper bus lane, bike lane. Just segregate it, and then people will use it. And then we have the chicken and the egg system, where they're saying, well, there's not enough people using it, so we're not going to make it. So, well, they're not using it because you don't make it properly.
Yeah.
So somebody's got to give, right? But I think to design these in retrospect or in hindsight, no, it doesn't work. You got to forward plan these things.
There was an estimate that, commuters average about 1.5 to 2 hours per trip.
Mm-hmm.
You imagine the normal family, their parents are commuting 3 to 4 hours a day.
That's very conservative.
That is
yes, it's conservative because, like, when I was doing the transport show, I would do this man on the street stuff a lot.
Yeah.
When I was doing it with CNN, I would go and really talk to people, and I found the average was about 3 hours one way, because a lot of them live in Cavite, Laguna, Bulacan. They're not living in Metro Manila because it's just too expensive.
Right.
So these people are leaving at like 4 a.m. just to get to work by 8.
And then you have an 8 to 10 hour work day.
And then you have an 8 to 10 hour working day. Then you got to get back. Then they have to usually prepare food for their kids and get them ready. That's not a life. That's not a life for anybody. And that's why I really felt I needed to fight for these people. I needed to be their voice as much as I could, because it was just inhumane. And people are still losing. And I just think it's worse now, probably.
Yeah.
That was before the pandemic when I was doing those interviews.
Yeah. Imagine you're living. We've been talking to a couple of influencers about how to fix financial literacy. And Chris was like, well, if you can't even solve the basic needs, right? And you're just so stressed out from day to day just to get back from your daily commute. You imagine the psychological impact that you have to go through. This is considered one of the most dense populations in the world.
It is.
Right? Usually in other places, you'll start to see an urban sprawl. And the only way you can do that is if you had, public transportation where you had easy access, right? If traffic was fixed, I would imagine, there would be a bigger urban sprawl across the Philippines.
Yes. Yes. And that would be the next thing that would need to be done is you have to decentralize.
Right.
We're not really focused on that. I know that they've tried. They're doing Clark now. They're doing Bulacan for around the airport and stuff like that. But I would think you should still go more aggressive with a decentralization plan. Create industry outside, like set it up already as early as now. Create the tax incentives for certain industries that you want to develop out there.
Right.
Build it and they will come, so to speak.
Right.
And then create that. You have to create. There's only one way. You can't renovate a house that you live in. And Metro Manila is it's a house that's full to the brim and it's falling apart too. So how are we going to fix that? We got to get people out. We got to spread them out. And then we got to I would even move the government out if I had to.
Force them to stay outside Manila.
Yes, because like a lot of, it's not going to be the first country. Kuala Lumpur did it with, is it Putrajaya when they put the seat of government there? Yeah, a lot of people don't like it because it's far from, yes, I know, but it's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And yes, lead by example, maybe.
Right.
Our former transport secretary, Arthur Tugade, he did that with his team and he demanded that the DOTR went to Clark. And that caused all sorts of problems for him. I mean, it was a great idea, but they didn't like it. The staff didn't like it. He was even putting them on buses and stuff, because he was trying to lead by example, but it never stuck because we're also creatures of habit, creatures of comfort.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
This is also, we can't blame the government for everything because as much as they have a huge responsibility and as much as, yes, they have failed in many areas, but so do we. I mean, because we tend to like to,
right.
No, I'd rather prefer this. I'd rather than sit on a bus for an hour or two and stuff like that. So nobody really wants to make that first sacrifice because nobody wants to be the first to live out there in Clark or the one to live in Bulacan. So you got to create this incentives where you reward the people, the early adopters. Give them some reason to go out because you just cannot fit. Geographically, we just cannot fit anymore in Manila.
Yeah. You said decentralizing cities would be one solution, right? What are some other solutions? I mean, obviously public transports like subways and things like that, right?
Massive. You cannot have this conversation without that being at the front and center. Public transportation and a good one, a mass rapid transit system. So if I was to give them a magic wand, or just full authority, right?
Yeah.
I would say yes. If I could start from scratch, a subway is underway anyway. We're expecting that to be done in about 2029, and we're about 40% done according to their latest reports. This should be able to transport more than 500,000 people a day, which would take a huge chunk off the road. That is number one because that's mass rapid transit. So that's going to be like your skeletal system underneath the ground. And once you get that underway, I would create high-speed rail from the airport north and south. So you can get, as soon as you land here, you can go maybe as far as Clark. If you can go further, yes. But even if just immediately to Clark and maybe Laguna, so that those people you can get from the airport and then within 25, 30 minutes, you're already in Clark or Laguna because it's high speed. And that would be feasible now to live in Laguna, feasible to live in Clark and work in the city. It's not crazy anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing is you're right. It's really not that far to walk from BGC to Makati, but we don't do it because it's not walkable.
It's not walkable.
I don't even know how you walk across that, Edza.
I would tell the only way that you could do that, you want to go down McKinley Road, right? That's about one where you wouldn't have to sort of but have you seen the sidewalks on McKinley Road? They just end abruptly. So you're walking and then all of a sudden you just run out of sidewalk because it's just ended. That's it. And this happens too with motorcycle lanes, with bike lanes. You're on it and it just ends. And you're now you're mixing with highway traffic. There's a portion there on the South Superhighway, which is an expressway. And then there's a bike lane and it just merges into the traffic. And that's it. You're a bike in the middle of the expressway fighting for your life.
I mean, this is playing into how it affects real estate, how it affects real estate investments. I think a lot of these very congested areas, even if you're very central, now we're not going to see the real estate values that you would hope to, right? But even people are looking at smart cities like BGC or mega township developments where they're designed by mega corporations like Ayala and stuff like that, and they're turning to the places like this. But then all of a sudden we're on these little islands.
Yes.
And we feel very like, even I feel like I live in an island, like living here in BGC, right? Rockwell, you feel like you're living in a little island and you don't want to leave because of traffic and stuff like that, And so it would be great. I mean, but I don't know if the willpower is there. I don't know if there's money to invest in it. I'm sure there is.
Well, it's just to add to that, there's what you said is so true, because it is an island, because when your area of responsibility ends here, it's just chaos after that, right? So like Rockwell is a great example too, BGC being another one. So Rockwell's managed really well, right? It's really great. But the entry points now to get into Rockwell and out of Rockwell are just...
Oh, yeah.
Because there's only one choke point in one, well, not one, but there's I think there's 3 choke points in and out. And that's it. BGC is the same. So it's okay when you have a walkable city, like BGC is a walkable city within the city for sure. But then if you have to leave the city, it gets a little, like going to Makati can be a 30-minute ordeal. And it's, how far is it? It's what, 2 kilometers away?
Now you've invested in real estate too, right? You own properties in Rockwell and things like that.
Yeah, and BGC here as well.
Right. Have you shifted your mindset on how you invest in real estate because of these problems?
Oh yeah, but not just because of these problems, but yes, because initially when I invested in the properties, I thought, wow, this is going to, I could see the prices rising, but I didn't quite understand money the way I do now. So I had to go through that learning curve. I invested because I thought it was going up, not realizing that it's just really matching inflation. That's it. That's all it. So you're on a treadmill financially.
Right.
You're not going anywhere.
Right.
You're just... So better than nothing, right? So I'm not saying that I regret it, because it did sort of, had I just put that in the bank, I would have maybe, that was 2019 when I bought, I'd have probably 25% less now, right? Maybe a little more, 30% less, if I kept it in fiat or cash. Then I discovered, like, there are other investments like Bitcoin and stuff like that. So I was thinking, wow, when I got my first apartment, it was 33.3 Bitcoin. And that's 2019. And if I was to sell it now, I'd be lucky to get 3 Bitcoin for it.
Right.
That's how I measure things now. So real estate hasn't become the greatest, investment for me or hedge against inflation, because I see that it just keeps up. Then there's maintenance costs on it. Then there's capital gains. Then there's VAT if you rent it out. Then there's agents' fees, property taxes. If you're using it to speculate, if you're using it as just a store of value, no.
I think that's what most people here use it as, a store of value, because...
For lack of what?
Because you don't have the financial structure that you have in the U.S. For example, in the U.S., and the reason why the market is so liquid there is because, well, one, you have the financial markets that support the real estate market, right? So it's a much better financing option, right? So you're getting fixed rate mortgages at 4 or 5 times. You're leveraging up 4 or 5 times at a low interest rate, at a fixed rate interest rate, right? Plus, on top of that, you can write off so much losses from real estate. It's depreciation and interest. So in other words, real estate is used kind of like a hedge against inflation, but also a tax shield. So you combine that, right? And you're leveraging your money up. So it's like if you're investing in Bitcoin, but imagine if you were able to leverage your money at 4 or 5 times, right?
Yeah.
Crypto, right? How much more wealthier could you get from that, right?
Or how much poorer?
Poorer, right?
Goes both ways.
Right. So when you exit on that real estate valuation, I mean, you could have invested $250,000 to buy a property, but when you exit, by the time you exit, you could potentially get a capital gains of $1 million. Yeah. Plus all the tax advantages that come with it.